July 20th, 1973. That was the day that made an entire nation mourn the loss of a legendary icon. That was also the day a relatively unknown Taiwanese actress, Ting Pei, rose to stardom. A stardom as the secret lover of Bruce Lee. A stardom that will forever associate her with the death of Bruce Lee. Details surrounding the death of Bruce Lee were uncanny. It was reported that Bruce Lee was practicing his grip for Game of Death with Ting Pei when he suddenly had an intense headache. Betty gave him Aquagesic, a painkiller containing meprobamate and aspirin as its main ingredients, and allowed him to rest on her bed. She then proceeded to watch television. When she tried to wake Lee up from his nap, he was unresponsive, and that was the last time the world saw Bruce Lee. Another version of story reported that Lee was taking sex-enhancing drugs prior to making love with his secret mistress, Ting Pei. It was said that the love-making session was too intense and Lee succumbed to death at her bed. Whichever the version of the story, it was an undisputable fact that Lee was found dead in the bed of then remote girlfriend, Ting Pei, at a second floor apartment at 67th Beacon Hill Road, Hong Kong. Did Betty really kill Bruce Lee? And if she did, why would she do so?
我梗係覺得好難過啦。我識佢啦，係咪？即係我即係好難過咧。我失咗一個朋友，那外間對我很多謠言，對我誤解。即係我而家不想做任何的解釋，因為我覺得解釋多了也沒有用。
She wasn't answering the question. In fact, it can be seen that Betty is trying to avoid the question of how and why Bruce Lee died at her place. Some people sympathized with her and felt that she played no part in his death, believing that she is innocent. Fans of Bruce Lee weren't happy with her. In fact, they felt she was avoiding all the responsibility of his death. How is it possible that someone as young and vital as Bruce Lee had departed at the age of 32? If so, what could Bruce Lee be doing in her apartment that led to his demise? It was reported prior to that he was meeting with Judge Lazenby to discuss his participation in Game of Death. After the meeting, he swung by his business partner, Raymond Chow's office to say that he wanted Lazenby in Game of Death. He was supposed to take Lazenby out to lunch, but Lee had other plans and cancelled. He wanted to visit Ting Pei's apartment. The studio driver took Lazenby back to his hotel. Lee promised to be back at the studio in the afternoon to settle how much money to offer Lazenby. He jumped into his Mercedes and drove away. He arrived at Betty's apartment at 67 Beacon Hill Road around 1 p.m. It was a one-bedroom with parquet flooring, wooden walls, and thick blue curtains. They spent the next several hours alone together, and that would turn out to be his last moment of life. Bruce Lee's business partner, Raymond Chow, told the press that he collapsed at his home while walking in his garden with his wife, Linda Lee. However, the truth was soon discovered by the media. They found it weird that an ambulance had picked up Bruce Lee from a second-floor apartment at 67 Beacon Hill Road, an address that belonged to Betty, but Lee's home was at 41 Cumberland Road. If he had collapsed at his home, why would the ambulance go to Betty's apartment instead of his home? The fact was, Lee died in the apartment of Betty Ting Pei, who at that time was the most attractive Taiwanese film star. His business partner was trying to avoid adding scandal to Lee's untimely death. Raymond Chow's lie was eventually exposed by the media. Bruce Lee was found in an apartment with a woman who was not his wife and at her bed unclothed. This caused speculations and rumors to surround the incident. Betty's neighbors also confirmed that Lee had been a regular weekly visitor to her apartment for months prior to his death. Many have been left wondering, did Betty Ting Pei's fragrant chamber kill the dragon? Who is Betty Ting Pei and what is she doing with Bruce Lee at the time leading to his death? People wanted an explanation. The media wanted an explanation. The nation wanted an explanation. None were letting go of Betty. She was immediately sought for an interview.
咁好多人就喺度成日都講，我今時今日都係話小龍當時點死啊？喺丁佩屋企出嚟嘅。
但係我諗我同一般觀眾都係有一個存疑喺個腦裏邊話，佢喺你屋企死，會唔會啊？大家都係咁諗啦，或者報紙啊、宣傳媒介都係咁寫話，小龍係因為男歡女愛過度而喺床上死。咁我亦都希望你會直接答，因為我同觀眾有個呢個疑問喺度。
因為我覺得我丁佩咧係一個敢做敢當嘅人，即係如果我做咗咧就做咗，如果我真係同小龍咧即係做愛，佢死咗啦，我都會承認嘅。
Betty Ting Pei was an up-and-coming actress at the time of Lee's death. She had signed with the Shaw Brothers Studio in Hong Kong in 1968 and already had several film credits to her name. When Lee was found dead in her apartment, the criticism, attention, and grief proved to be overwhelming for Betty. She blames the negative attention and constant association with the tragedy for ruining her career. While she did continue to act up until the 1980s, including in some English language films such as The Lost Generation and My Name Ain't Susie, her career never really took off, and she was not able to shake off the stigma of having been associated with Lee's death. Not too long after Lee's death, Betty married Charles Hyung, a Hong Kong actor turned film producer, a movie mogul in 1976. She got married in order to put a stop to the controversy surrounding her with Lee's death. The marriage only lasted for 4 years. He could not handle the pressure of being labeled as the husband of the woman who killed Bruce Lee. Life after divorce for Betty wasn't a bed of roses. Just when the incident was fading away from people's memory, Bruce Lee's death anniversary would once again remind them of the brutal truth. Her nightmare would come, causing her life to turn upside down. She retired from showbiz entertainment. She did everything she could to prove that she was not guilty of murdering Bruce Lee. She converted herself to Buddhism and lived a quiet life away from the camera. But the camera wasn't giving up on her. The temple she was in was bombarded with reporters all the time, and she had no choice but to give another interview to show that she is now a changed woman.
我由全世界的人都叫我去死，而且我可以不死，我可以面对全世界。人不能了解我，那还好有个佛可以了解我。
People were not taking it. They felt that she was responsible for Lee's death, including the blame that she gave him the fatal painkiller, while others alleged that Lee died while making love to her. People wanted her dead. They wanted to bomb Betty Ting Pei to death. They knew Betty converted to Buddhism in order to be allowed to stay in the temple. Bomb threats was put in public square. Although it turned out to be a hoax filled only with rubbish, but over the next few weeks, more and more fake bombs were planted across the city with such messages as revenge for Bruce Lee. Out of job and out of money, she did the unthinkable in 2003 during the 30th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death. She no longer hides from the public eyes and even made an announcement at the press conference of her plans to write her autobiography, detailing her relationship with Bruce Lee. She knew she could make use of people's perception of her and Bruce Lee's to make money. She would go on to appear in A Date with Lu Yu, which is China's biggest talk show TV program, where viewership for the program would reach millions. Chen Lu Yu, the host of the program, has a popularity that even surpasses that of Oprah Winfrey. Let us watch what she has to say to the public.
怎么样都要把我跟李小龙这一段，这个我们两个人的缘分，我想应该到时候真的要公诸于世了。
全港哗然，所有的矛头都指向了丁佩。为什么李小龙会死在丁佩的床上？两人到底是什么关系？这背后有什么不可告人的隐情，让丁佩最终选择了撒谎？作为唯一目击证人，丁佩又会如何回应李小龙的突然死亡？
那你觉得到底是什么原因呢？
我觉得在我来说，到现在肯定，我觉得是非常自然的。
你觉得它自然明归？
当然是自然了，这不可能是不自然。对。
但我
On airing, the show attracted millions upon millions of people watching. Her shocking revelations that Bruce Lee died of natural cause angered people, especially fans of Bruce Lee. Nonetheless, in 2006, during a radio interview, Betty admitted openly that she and Lee had been lovers for more than a year before his death. I still have Bruce stuff in my house, she said. In 2008, she revealed that she had already written more than 7,000 words and that Taiwan, Hong Kong, mainland China, and overseas authors had offered to serve as a co-author. The project was halted indefinitely as Betty said that it was not the right time due to its complicated contents which involved other people. In 2013, 40 years after Lee's death, Betty once again admitted that she had an intimate relationship with Lee, but said that she did not engage in any sexual activity with him on the day that he died. On 20th July 2015, also the 42nd anniversary of Bruce Lee's death, The Best Time with Bruce Lee, the biography of her relationship with Bruce Lee, was published by the Beijing Times Chinese press. Unfortunately, there is only the Chinese version available at this time. There is no new revelation in the book other than what has already been told. The book was mostly used to explain her relationship with Bruce and the aftermath that followed, including her entry into Buddhism. Thank you for watching, and do share this video to people who need it. See you in the next video.